Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is Open Mic. Now, what is Open Mic? I'm glad that you asked. To see, every day on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday, we take some time to take live questions, but we love live questions. So on the weekend, that's all we do is take your live questions. Gonna have a lot of stuff to talk here about today. You guys have already started firing in a whole lot of questions for us to discuss. One of the interesting things, we're going to talk about this tomorrow, is that Avengers Endgame came in number one at the box office again, just over Detective Pikachu by like less than 10 million bucks. But it's not good news. I mean, we were figuring that Detective Pikachu and Endgame would both make in the 70s to 80s, and they both made under that. So while Endgame did come in at number one, it came in at less than I thought it would have come in at being at number two. Like, I thought being at number two, it still would have made more money than it actually did. And Detective Pikachu certainly didn't blow the doors off. I remember when everybody was yelling at me and I said, look, Detective Pikachu is not going to be a $100 million film. And everybody screamed at me, John, you don't understand. Pokemon is the number one biggest IP in the world. It's going to make $200 million. And it's going to... I said, well, okay, I think it's going to make a lot, and I think it's got a good chance of being number one at the box office when it opens against Endgame in its third weekend. But I think it came around 58, 55, something like that. It didn't do fantastic. It did well, but it didn't do fantastic, so that's interesting as well. So, we're going to talk about that more on the John Campea Show tomorrow. Anyway, for now, let's get to the whole reason we're here, which is live questions. So let's get things started today. And we're going to start things off with Topher Rocks, who writes, if John Wick Chapter 3 is great, do you think it will be considered one of the best action trilogies ever? I love Keanu as Wick and the franchise. No. Somebody else brought this up the other day, actually. Because to be a great action movie, you got to have more than just great action. You can have great action in your movie. That doesn't necessarily make you a great action movie. You know what I mean? And, I mean, John Wick Chapter 2 was a hell of a lot of fun, but it was pretty weak narratively. At least I thought. Still super enjoyable, but very weak narratively. John Wick Chapter 1 is fabulous for all the visceralness of it, but from a narrative point of view, I didn't find it super compelling. But that's okay, because that's not what I go into John Wick looking for. I'm going in for John Wick to see a lot of fun, and I get that. I mean, a lot depends on just how good John Wick 3 is, but no, I don't think it'll be considered one of the greatest action franchises ever. Some of the best action in a franchise ever? Yes. One of the greatest action franchises ever? I don't know. I don't know about that. All I know is that I'm super excited to see John Wick Chapter 3, and that's all I care about right now. All right, next, Tyler Yeats writes, there are so many movies coming out that I want to see, plus I'd see Endgame again 5 more times if I could. Yeah, I keep saying I've seen Endgame 4 times. I think I've got one more left in me. I don't know if I've got another one left in me. I mean, not because I don't have a great time at it, but it is 3 hours. And I have seen it 4 times. And I do have other things to do. So I may just, I don't know if I'm going to see it again. I mean, I'm definitely going to watch it multiple times once it comes out on home streaming. Once that happens, I will definitely be watching it a whole hell of a lot. But I don't know if I'm going to go to the theater again. I think I might have, I think I'm good. I don't know. Ann still wants to see one more time, so I might squeeze in one more. We'll see. But there are a lot of good ones coming. We got John Wick. I think Aladdin's going to be good. We got Godzilla, which is sounding absolutely terrific. There's a bunch of good stuff coming, so we got a lot of things to look forward to, Tyler. All right, Roman Bryant writes, Baskin Robbins always finds out. One of my favorite lines from the original Ant-Man. I love that line, and it still works today, Roman. It still works today. Orange Hand writes, instead of Tony building a gauntlet, maybe the one in Odin's vault wasn't fake, and Thor and Rocket have to retrieve it. Better or worse? Well, in the one hand, it would have been much better. Honestly, the fact that a human from Earth that is hundreds and sometimes thousands of years technologically behind a lot of other places, and the fact that to build a gauntlet that could wield the Infinity Stones needed a magical giant dwarf who lives in the heart of a dying star to forge it. But in Endgame, I just get Tony. Tony can make it in a day. Yay! That was stupid. I mean, let's call it what it is. That was stupid. The payoff was worth it. The payoff was great. So, like, I'll take it. I'll take the stupid, fine. Say Tony built one himself. Fine. I'll deal with it because the payoff for what that gave us was so worth it. But it was dumb and it was stupid. So on the one hand, Thor and Rocket having to retrieve another gauntlet would have been better narratively to me. Would have been much better narratively to me. But it would have been retconning because it's already been established that it was fake. The one in the armory and in Odin's vault was fake. So they would have had to have retconned that. So look, I do wish they'd come up with something other than, oh, Tony, one day, yeah, I can make something that does that can harness. Remember, the Power Stone. If the Power Stone even touches the surface of a planet, that planet gets wiped out. Remember in Guardians of the Galaxy? But Tony, oh no, I can build a glove in a day that can harness the power of that. No problem. Stupid. Absolutely stupid. I accept it because the payoff was great, but that doesn't undermine the fact that that was a stupid plot device. Anyway, let's move on here. Guy Volt writes, The Incredible Hulk is my number 3 in my MCU list. Nice. To me, it's one of the most underrated. I love Norton's performance, his pain, the end fight, etc. I love the end fight with Abomination. Love it. And I've always wanted them to bring Abomination back. Remember, he ain't dead. They put him in prison. So I would love to see Blonsky. I'd love to see him back as Abomination. I've always wanted to see that. And I agree. Look, it's still one of the lower ranked MCU movies to me. But I think it's a little bit underappreciated. I have a good time watching that movie. I do. All right. Orange Hand writes, I read an intriguing Twitter thread that offers an explanation as to why Game of Thrones fans dislike this season. I can send you the link if you're interested. I'm not interested at all. Not in the least. I don't need another link to another thread of another group of people whining and bitching and complaining. And hey, we all do our share of whining and bitching and complaining. This guy included. We all do it, but I don't need to go out and find other threads where people are crying and whining and bitching and complaining. I can do my own whining and crying, bitching and complaining if I want, and I don't need to go out and find other things. I think this season of Game of Thrones is brilliant. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I don't care why other people like it more than I do. I don't care why other people don't like it. I care that they do or don't, but I don't care why. All I know is that for me, I love it. I love it. And what I'll never understand is, here's the thing. You guys know I don't like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., right? So I will address Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. if somebody asks me about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. What I do not do is continuously make social media posts once a week, once every 2 weeks, harping on why you shouldn't like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., right? I don't create a new video every week or every 2 weeks to try to convince people not to like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I personally think it's terrible. And I have my reasons for thinking that it's terrible. And I've expressed my reasons for thinking why it's terrible. I don't need to go and join threads of people coming together to try to convince other people that they shouldn't like something that they do. I've never understood that. Like, hey, if I go to see a movie and I don't like it and I do my review for it, don't like this movie. But I'm not going to make a video every week about that movie and about how bad that movie is. I'm not going to spend my time whining and complaining. Although I do a lot of whining and complaining, we all do, right? It's part of being a film fan. We whine and complain. That's what we do. But I've never understood this thing about I need to create threads about why this movie sucks. I need to create videos about why this show sucks. I need to do this and that. And I need to spread the word that if you like this thing, you're wrong. Whatever. I've just never understood that. But it's one of those, it's just one of those things. And again, if somebody brings up Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to me, if somebody brings up the Star Wars prequels to me, if somebody wants to ask me about those things, I will answer, sure. But I'm not going to go out of my way to create threads about, let's all get together and talk about how sucky Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to make a new video every week about why you should hate Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm not going to create, I don't get it. So I get there are people who do not like the direction Game of Thrones is going in this year. And I respect that. That's great. But I disagree. I think it's wonderful. I'm not a hardcore Game of Thrones fan. All I know is that an average TV viewer, I'm watching Game of Thrones this season. I'm thinking, hell, this is really high quality stuff. This is great. And not everything's for everybody. I accept any movies I love. There are going to be people that don't like them. I accept the movies I hate. Other people are going to love them. And that is, but I have no desire or interest to go around and start reading through hate spew. I just have no desire to go through, so I got a big gaggle of people who hate something. Yeah, what feels like a really constructive use of my time is spending my time just going through and reading all the reasons you hate something. It's just not for me. It's just not for me. Now, don't get me wrong. If some of my favorite critics out there put up their assessment of Game of Thrones, I'd be curious to go see their review. And if they liked it and if they hated it and why they loved it or why they hated it, I'm into that. But I'm not into, again, getting into threads where it's just everybody getting together to complain about stuff. I don't know. Now, I'm not saying people shouldn't do that. Look, if you find some catharsis in that and you find community in that and you get together with a bunch of people so you don't feel alone in the fact that you, okay, I'm not going crazy that I don't like this episode of Game of Thrones because there are others of you, right? Great. If that works for you, that's awesome. I'm not trying to disparage that at all. I'm just saying that's not for me. I don't join Why Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Show Sucks Facebook groups. I don't join Why the Star Wars prequels are an abomination, communities on Discord. I don't those are things I don't like, but I don't need to go and join communities or spend my time reading through things about why everybody hates them. It doesn't seem like a good constructive use of my time. That's all. I'm not disparaging anybody else who finds some catharsis in that and finds a community in that. That's great if that works for you. I'm just saying it doesn't work for me, and that's why. Anyway, so no, Orange, I have no interest in reading that thread. Micah T writes, 3 years later, where does the Civil War airport scene rank for you? I watched it yesterday and was reminded how great it is. I still think, look, while I believe that the final hour of Endgame is the single greatest hour in the history of comic book movies, I still kind of think the airport scene might be the best single scene. I still think the airport scene is the best single scene. There's so much that's going on in that scene, both narratively, emotionally, and the action is crazy. Seeing all these Avengers against I don't know. To me, it's still the best scene. So where's the rank for me, Micah? I think it still ranks as my number one. King of the Hills 34 writes, Endgame beat Pikachu to stay at number one. Yeah, but that's great, but it came in lower at number one than I thought it would at number two. I thought it would be number two, but in the $70+ million range. Instead it came, so I don't know if that's good news. I personally don't see that as a positive. Number one, great. But if I'm Endgame, if I'm the producers of Endgame, I would much rather come in second place and have made $78 million instead of $68 million. Do you see what I'm saying? If you offered me, if I'm the producer of Endgame and you said, okay, you got a choice. You can make $68 million and be number one, or you can make $78 million and be number two. $78 million at number two. Thank you very much. All day, every day. All day, every day. So honestly, I don't think that's a big thing for Endgame to be number one at 68. I think really the story is that Pikachu came in a lot lower than what a lot of people, including me, kind of thought it would make. I thought Pikachu would come in 75, 80. I thought it would do much better. So to me, the story isn't, yay, Endgame came in at number one. It actually did worse than I thought it would this weekend. To me, the story is that Pikachu did much more poorly than I thought it would, than I think a lot of people would. And I think that's really the story. Jason Espinoza writes, on Tony's Gauntlet, he had 5 years to study the original, but he didn't study the original. He didn't have the original. He didn't possess the Gauntlet. So let's not pretend that's a real thing. To study the Gauntlet, his might even have incorporated the original in part using his tech to repair the original, but he didn't. And here's the thing. A guy on Earth should no way No way. It's like saying, just cure cancer then. Well, that's beyond us right now. I don't care if one guy spent 5 years. It is beyond us right now to cure cancer. So I don't care if you go back to Tony Stark in 2005 and say, yeah, but Tony had 10 years to study it. It doesn't matter. That is beyond us right now. And when you've had civilizations and galaxies and stuff like that and all that kind of stuff, say, I'll just put this in the hand of a human guy with a human education on Earth, and a couple of years, he'll figure out what civilizations millennia more advanced than us couldn't figure out. He'll figure it out. It's still dumb. It should have taken lifetimes. But again, understanding what the payoff to it is, I'm okay with it. Fine. It doesn't change the fact that it's stupid. It is stupid. But the payoff was some great stuff in that final hour of the movie. And if I had to trade in all that great stuff just to get rid of that stupid thing, I wouldn't do it. I'd say keep the stupid as long as I get the great stuff. But it is what it is. Ant Banks 1984 writes, well-timed fart jokes in a movie, to me, still one of the most hilarious things to see. Example, Blazing Saddles. Yeah, that's not, Blazing Saddles isn't still. That's movies that's decades and decades and decades old. And the dinner scene in Nutty Professor, I hated that scene. I'll be honest with you, I hated that scene. I just do not find fart jokes funny. I did, and not just as a kid, but no, I did up till maybe about 15 years ago. Maybe 10, 15 years ago. But at some point I just got, okay, we get it. The fart joke is like the bottom of the barrel joke to go to. It's the absolute last resort joke to go to. So I don't know. Look, every once in a while I'm in a theater and they do a fart joke and the audience responds great to it for whatever. And it used to for me too. It just doesn't do it for me anymore. But that doesn't mean it's not possible. Like if they did, let's take Avengers Endgame for a second. That scene where they place the Infinity Stones in Tony Stark's brand new magic Iron Gauntlet. And you know how Rocket goes, boo, right? If instead of that, they're all sitting there and there's this tense moment, and then you just heard a fart. Instead of Rocket going, boo, and then fart is like, sorry, the tension was really thick in here. That could have been funny. I mean, right? So in general, I don't like fart jokes anymore. I find them to be bottom of the barrel, but that doesn't mean you can't still use them in a particular way that might get a big reaction. So, hey, it's like anything else, right? All right. Let's see. Speedfire writes, some people think Lucas is part of the team working on episode 9. He is not. I asked people why they believe it is, and they say because JJ said so. No, he did not. I just don't see why Disney would do this with their trilogy. No, but remember, even go back to The Force Awakens. JJ consulted with George. I mean, there's some great, actually, let me see if I can find it. It's actually one of my favorite pictures. I gotta see, I would love to maybe see if I can find this and get it on some kind of, get it mounted in a poster form. Because I love this. Check this. I love this image. This is a picture taken of George and JJ having dinner together. This is prior to The Force Awakens, just before he went into production on The Force Awakens. And they chatted about it. They had conversations about it. And I would love to have a giant print of this framed. I love this picture. I absolutely adore this picture. How great is that image? Anyway, so is George Lucas on the creative team? No. Does JJ or has JJ had a conversation or two with George about it? I'm sure that he did. I'm 100% sure that he did. But that's different than having your team of writers who are with you 9 hours a day, 7 days a week, over the course of a year. That's very different. But I do believe completely that he probably did a little bit of consulting with George, probably got his thoughts on a couple of things and went ahead. But no, George Lucas is not a part of the team working on Star Wars Episode 9. Frab Nab writes, over under 30%, Pod dies, you probably mean Podrick, dies protecting Tyrion, maybe versus Bronn. Nah, I think Bronn's story's done. I think Bronn's story is done. I honestly don't think we're going to see Bronn again. I would like to, but I think in the same way that we saw the last of, who am I thinking of? Of Sam and of Tormund. I think we've seen the last of Bronn. I hope I'm wrong about that, but I think that last conversation with them was his swan song. I think he's done. If anything, I think Podrick dies maybe trying to protect Brienne. Not that she needs protection, but they might be in a fight and he's got her back. Maybe he dies there. So I don't know. Over under 30%, I'll take over 30% that Podrick dies, but I'll take the under 30% that he dies specifically trying to protect Tyrion. So that's what I'll go with for now. We'll find out tonight. All right. Tony Hurd writes, after Endgame, one thing that has been fun is watching scenes from previous Marvel movies with a new context. It's always neat going back to older movies in any franchise, really. Once you've seen the newest installments, kind of now watch those movies, understanding now that we know where those characters later go, Tony. You know what I'm saying? And that is a lot of fun. And certainly the MCU is one of those that does that and has that in spades. ZMG Ruler writes, Shazam less than every DCEU, MCU except Hulk. Bad. I'm assuming you mean made less. Nope. As long as the movie's profitable, and Shazam was profitable because they made it for quite cheap. As long as it's profitable, and here's the important thing for the DCU moving forward. What they needed, what was more important to them right now, is to have movies that the critics and the audiences really enjoy. That's the more important thing right now, because that will lay the foundation for future success. So if you can make a movie now that is profitable and made money, and it was really well received by critics and the audiences, that paves the way for future success. That's a win all the way around. Now, would they have rather have made $500 million? Absolutely. Would they have rather made $700 million? Absolutely. But if you had to told them a year before Shazam came out, hey, Shazam's going to make money, not a ton, but it's going to crawl over the breaking even mark, and it's actually going to get into the profitability, and critics are going to really like it, and audiences are really going to like it. Do you think the head guys at Warner Brothers would have said, I'll take it? Absolutely. Absolutely. So no, it's a win for them. Shazam is definitely a win for them. Let's see. Jason Espinoza writes, did you see season 6, episode 1 of, speaking of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. seems to confirm multiverse. No, I do not like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I believe I am now. I gave up on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but the problem is I'm such a sucker for comic book material that I kept watching it anyway. And a few episodes were quite good. I think it was their 100th episode. I thought their 100th episode was great. I really do. I thought it was great. But then it just started to suck again. Look, my opinion, I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is quite a bad TV show. And even though I came back to it just because I was a sucker, end of last season, to me, I tapped out. I can't do it anymore. I just can't watch that show anymore. So I love that other people like it, and I love that other people enjoy it and have a good time with it. That's awesome. I'm not going to detract that from you whatsoever. But I gave it more than a shot. I tried so hard, and I kept watching, and I kept watching, and I kept watching. I just can't do it anymore. I just find the show, again, I'm just speaking for myself. I find the show to be absolute garbage. I cannot watch it anymore. Despite the fact that I love Clark Gregg and I love the Agent Coulson character. I think he's the one reason I kept watching, just because I like him so much, but I can't do it anymore. I just can't. I got too much. My every second we waste is a wasted second, so I just can't do it anymore. Speedfire writes, and there is no evidence George. Oh, this is going back to the George thing. There's no evidence George has anything, including a sequel trilogy planned. Maybe the odd comment, and if so, why he not make it himself? Well, Speedfire, that's a huge ball of wax right there. There's a million reasons why George didn't do it himself, but there's a great book. I'll just point you to this. There's a great book called, what was the name of it? Is it called How Star Wars Conquered the Galaxy? How Star Wars Conquered the Universe is the name of the book. And it is by, trying to get the name of the author here, Chris Taylor. It is fantastic. It is fantastic and has so much information in there. And it goes into the stories about George didn't really have a lot of the stuff planned out. He really didn't. And it's a terrific, if you're a Star Wars fan, I highly recommend. Let me see if I can just bring this screen, the cover on here for you, just in case you're interested in it. This is It's How Star Wars Conquered the Universe, Past, Present, Future of a Multi-Billion-Dollar Franchise by Chris Taylor. Love this book. Absolutely adore this book. As a Star Wars fan, I found it fascinating, and it speaks a lot to the stuff that you're talking about there, Speedfire. All right. Jetfire97 writes, who's going to be America's ass now? Poor Ant-Man. Yeah, who's America's ass now? That's a good question. I don't know. That's a good one. Oh, poor Ant. That was such a great moment. That's America's ass. Again, another line in Endgame that if I had read the script and read that line, I would have said, that's a dumb line. But seeing it on screen, the way they executed it, it was hilarious. Danny Ramuni writes, dating in MCU must be weird now. Peter/friends were like 16. Now they're in the same dating pool as those that were 11 in their eyes 5 minutes ago. Yeah, that's a little bit weird. Because now the other 16-year-olds are those who he remembers as being 11. Although he probably didn't know them at the time because he probably didn't hang out with 11-year-olds. But yeah, that would be strange. It would be strange that there are girls like Vulture's daughter that Peter was in love with in Homecoming. Yeah, like she's 20 now, or 21 or 22 now, and graduating university now. Like, so that would be like a really weird thing to think about. Ben Hayusa writes, happy Mother's Day, John. Taking our mom out to eat. I wish I could take my mom out to eat, but my mom is a couple thousand miles away, unfortunately. But all my sisters and my brother are all back there, my dad. I'm sure they're having a great Mother's Day today. And a happy Mother's Day. To any of you who are watching who are mothers, happy Mother's Day to everybody. It is a day that should probably be like a week. It should probably be Mother's Week, I think, if you really think about it. Anyway, James Welsh writes, I'm worried Cameron won't be alive by the time the last Avatar comes out. He will be in his 70s. Dude, 70s is not 105. I mean, seriously, 70 now is like the new 50. He's in great shape. Don't worry about it. I mean, hold a second. How old... is Clint Eastwood is still making movies and he's almost 90. Clint Eastwood is still directing great movies and he's 88 years old. Don't worry about James Cameron's age. He's still plenty young. Adam Martinez writes, Godzilla King of the Monsters social media reviews are great. Yeah, it's good to hear. Again, I was shocked the other day when they said the early tracking now for Godzilla is to make 55 million opening weekend. I thought it would be much higher than that. So I'll be curious to see what it does open up as. Hearing this good word of mouth can't do anything but help, though, Adam. All right. Ryan Lohner writes, happy Mother's Day. Biggest Endgame cry time for me. Don't give me hope. That was a great line. Don't give me hope. I mean, it's a shame they didn't have more time to really go into the Hawkeye stuff. But the way he played that scene, he was so utterly broken. And that line is so good as he looks at her and says, don't give me hope. And her response was great too. I just wish I could have given it to you sooner. That response was great too. But yeah, man, that was a fabulous line. I just loved it. Julius Goodwin writes, I've wondered, what does a movie producer do? Okay, well, I can't spend 20 minutes going into it. The basics is that this. The producer is the one who actually puts the movie together. The producer is the one who secures the script. Now, look, there are different levels of producers. Again, that's why I'm not going to go into 20 minutes. But the basics thing is this. He's the one who gets the story. He's the one who decides this movie needs to get made. He's the one who gets the funding. He's the one who hires the director. He or she is the one who, does this. He or she is the one. The producer is really the most important person. When it comes down to the most important person as how good or bad the movie is, that's the director. But when it comes to just the movie getting made, that's why at the Academy Awards, when the best picture is announced, it gets given to the lead producer because they're the ones who actually pull the movie together. So again, that's a 20-minute long discussion, but that's the basic idea of it. Let's see. Murray Reich writes, watch the video of how Marvel heroes feel not being in Endgame. Hilarious. I have never even heard of it. Murray, do me a favor, email me a link to that. I would love to get a link to that. So John at thejohncampeashow.com, email me a link. I'd like to see that because that sounds funny. Aunt Banks 1984 writes, knock, knock, who's there? Miss Ellen from next door. I baked some cookies. I want to come over and try some. Hell no, thanks. It Chapter 2 teaser. I'm telling you, remember I told you guys when I was at CinemaCon? I said, guys, they showed us a scene with Jessica Chastain that is just unbelievably awesome and creepy as hell, and I can't wait for you guys to see it. That's the scene we were talking about, man. That scene, Aunt Banks, and they didn't even show the full scene in the trailer. But oh my God, if that scene actually gives us a taste of what this movie's going to feel like, I am beyond excited. I cannot wait for this damn movie. And yes, it'll make me think twice about accepting old ladies an invitation to have some baked cookies. Ben Rayner writes, John, you should try and see Endgame 2 more times. Nah, I'm good. One for each of the Stones. You can do it, but I'm not interested in doing it. I've seen it 4 times in theaters. That means I've spent 12 hours in theaters watching this movie. I might have one more in me. But I'm good. I don't need to watch it anymore. Until it comes out on home video, and then I'll watch it like every night for a week. But nah, I don't need to go and spend more time in the theater on it, I don't think. Ryan Lohner writes, Brian J. Jones' biography of Dr. Seuss is out, including the mental image of him slacking off in Tolkien's class at Oxford and getting flunked. I have not even heard of this, Ryan. I've never even heard of it. Never even heard of this thing. I'm fascinated, though, and now I got to go add it to my watch list. So Brian J. Jones' biography of Dr. Seuss, didn't even know it was such a thing. Didn't even know it was a real thing. Now, I'm going to assume it's on Netflix. Like you say, it's out, so I don't know where it's out. Or is it a theatrical thing? Is it a limited release theatrical? Is it Netflix? Whatever. I'm curious about it, though, but I've never heard of it. Keem writes, I just watched both seasons of Cobra Kai. Amazing. Yeah, I can't do it. I tried. I was excited for Cobra Kai. I got about 4 or 5 episodes into season 1, and I had to tap out. I thought, this is just stupid. My wife loves it. I got friends who love it. A lot of you guys love it, and that's awesome. I celebrate that you're enjoying it. That's terrific, but it just did not work for me at all. And I wanted to like it, but I'm glad you're enjoying it, man. That's the important thing. All right, Murray Wright writes, the store I work at just got in a Yarmulke? I don't even know what that is. That has new England Patriots logo on it, name on it. Very cool. Anything with the New England Patriots logo and name on it sounds cool to me, but I have no idea what a Yarmulke. I gotta admit, I have no idea what that is. That's gone right over my head. Drinks on Me writes, just finished American Honey on Netflix. Haven't heard of it. As much as I want to hate Shia LaBeouf, he's special. One of the best of his generation. Hope he gets his shit together. Yeah, look, I've been saying for a long time, Shia LaBeouf may be as mad as a hatter. I mean, he just may be completely gone. But do not mistake his being a total whack job for not having apex level talent. He is one of the best in the world. He really is. His level of acting talent is simply off the charts. Steven Spielberg recognized that early. And he's only getting better. But he's been such a whack job that it's hard for people to put him in a lot of stuff. I hope you're right, Drinks, man. You're absolutely right. I hope he gets stuff together because we are being deprived right now of one of the greatest acting talents in the business today because producers, for understandable reasons, are very apprehensive about actually putting him in anything legit or big, because they don't know if the audience is into him or not right now. And it's really too bad because he is a ridiculously talented performer. Ridiculously talented. So I'm with you, man. I hope he gets his stuff together. I really, really do. All right. Where are we at? Julius Goodwin writes, fortune will crown the bold before the worthy. Agona Appel, always strive to be both as you go forward. I honestly don't know the quote. Fortune will crown the bold before the worthy. I don't know what that is, but I love the quote. That's an awesome line, Julius. Murray Reich writes, over under 50% that Raptors blow tonight's game. I'll go under 50%, but I wouldn't go under 40%. They should have wrapped this series up in Game 6. They totally should have wrapped this series up in Game 6. It's just, Oh, it's excruciating. It's excruciating. So I think they win, but I don't feel real solid about that. I don't feel real solid about it. Ryan Lohner writes, another great early role. 10-year-old Jake Gyllenhaal as Billy Crystal's son in City Slickers. I had no idea. Is that true? Hold on a second. Let me look that up. Jake Gyllenhaal, City Slickers. All right. Let's check this out. Oh my goodness. I had no idea that was him. I had no idea that was him. Ladies and gentlemen, Jake Gyllenhaal. Oh, I can't open that picture. Okay, let me see if I can find another one that does. That's not a good one. Maybe this one will work. I'll try this one. Jake Gyllenhaal in City Slickers. I had no idea. I had absolutely no clue. That's good to know. That's a good one, Ryan. Thanks for sharing that one. All right. Tapor writes, while Hulk was a little underutilized in Endgame, he will still be around for future movies, whereas Cap and Iron Man won't be. Just one way of looking at it. No, absolutely. I mean, Banner's still there. He can still be in other movies. Hell, they might use him in the Black Widow movie that's coming out. They could use him in that. They can use him in any other movie moving forward. They can put him in other characters' movies. And that is a good thing. And by the way, I still think Iron Man and Captain America will be back. They'll be back. Maybe not in a year. Maybe not in 3 years. Maybe not even 5. But they'll be back. Of that, I have no doubt. No doubt in my mind whatsoever. It doesn't matter what they say. I do believe they'll be back. All right, ETT Media writes, whatever happened to the Continental? I believe it's still in development. I believe the plan is that they're still doing it. So I haven't heard that's been canceled. So I believe it. Look, it takes a while to put these things together. So they've got their timing. Emmanuel Urquhart writes, saw HBO Chernobyl episode 1, really awesome and haunting. I've had a bunch of people, Emmanuel, writing to me asking if I've seen Chernobyl yet. I have not. I have not seen Chernobyl yet. But I've had a lot of people writing me ask me if I've checked that out yet. The trailers do look fantastic. They look haunting. They look immersive. I'm excited to see it, but I haven't had a chance to see it yet myself. No, Quizada writes, I am Nanotech Man. Snap. Yeah, that's pretty much it, right? He's not Iron Man anymore. Then at the end, he was Nanotech Man. Tony Hurd writes, Endgame is about 300 million from passing Avatar. I honestly did not think I would see this happen. Yeah, I mean, I was as skeptical as anybody that it could catch Avatar. And then, well, then that started to change. When the advanced tickets went out, when that opening weekend number, especially when it made 357 opening, it was like, oh my God. Now look, it is still not a lock that it's going to pass Avatar. I believe it will. I'm just saying it's not a lock. $300 million is still a lot, especially when it didn't even make 70 this weekend. It's got to make 300 million more. And don't forget, next weekend we got John Wick Chapter 3 opening. And more people are, well, they're done watching Endgame. They've seen it 3, 4, 5 times. It's still not a for sure thing. Again, I believe it is going to catch Avatar at this point. But don't be mistaken. It's not a lock. It's not a lock. But we'll see. Murray Reich writes, check out Jimmy Kimmel's video called Tom Brady Helps Jimmy Kimmel Vandalize Matt Damon's House. I've seen it. It is funny. It's really, really good. I'm sad that you put in the Matt Damon name there, because the brilliance of that video is the surprise that it's Matt Damon's house. That's the brilliance of the video, right? That's the part that makes it really funny. Vince Carter of Mars writes, do you think Doctor Strange 2 may be about Dormammu? No. Coming back to take over Earth again because he somehow finds out Strange no longer has the Time Stone. No, I think they're done with Dormammu. I really do. I don't think we're going to see him again in Doctor Strange and anything else. I think they had him for that movie. They settled the issue with him there, and then it's done. It's done. I don't think we're going to see that again. So anyway, there's that. And remember, it wasn't the Time Stone that kept Dormammu away before, right? That's not what kept him away before. and they've rebuilt their defenses now. So no, I don't think we're going to see him again. Javier Riaz writes, I think I would have liked to seen a full-powered Vision versus Thanos. That would have been an entertaining fight. Yeah, I don't know that it would have lasted long, though. I don't think it would have lasted long. Look, they've made Vision very powerful in the movies, but they haven't made him as powerful as he is in the comics, and I think that was a good choice. I don't know that he would have put up that big of a fight against Thanos. I'm not sure, but it would have been interesting to see. It would have been interesting to see that for sure. Let's see. Joser Miaz writes, what's your GOAT NBA player? I think right now, to me, it's Mike. It's Jordan. Let's see how LeBron does over the next couple of years, though. LeBron is poised to pass Jordan, but he hasn't done it yet, and he has to have a couple more really great years to do it to me. But for right now, for me, it's Jordan. Okay. I'm Upset writes, what's better, Key and Peele or The Chappelle Show? Look, most people will say The Chappelle Show, but I really like Key and Peele. I like that show. I actually liked it more than The Chappelle Show myself. Now, I know I'm in the minority on that. They're both great, but me, I'll take Key and Peele. Patrick Conway writes, Scarlet Witch or Thor, Prime Infinity War, best 1v1 versus Thanos. Well, I mean, 1v1... Thor wasn't in his prime in Infinity War. Or sorry, yes, he was. In Infinity War, he was in his prime. It's hard, though, to call the Thor fight the best fight because it was one shot. Thor took one shot at him and beat Thanos in one shot. So Scarlet Witch was a more entertaining fight when you get into Endgame. So, and really, and Scarlet Witch didn't do much against Thanos either, other than just slowed him down a little bit as he advanced on her. But I would take the Scarlet Witch fight versus Thanos. It was a more entertaining fight because the Thanos fight was one shot. It was one shot and he won, so I'll go with that. Murray Reich writes, I wore my Quantum Realm jacket to a Yankee game and got a lot of cheering / comments from many people like, Avengers Assemble, it was awesome. Dude, I remember because I was lucky enough that I ordered mine immediately because a lot of people didn't get theirs in time for, most people didn't get theirs in time for the opening of the movie. But I got mine a week before that. And so Ann and I wore our Avengers Quantum Realm jackets to the premiere. Oh my God, the amount of times we got stopped and people wanted to talk about the jackets. It was great. I love that jacket. By the way, I still have the jacket and I'm going to be giving it away. I'm going to be giving away my Avengers Quantum Realm jacket that I wore, was actually worn to the Avengers Endgame world premiere. And I'm going to be doing a giveaway of that jacket. I still don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to be doing a giveaway. The important thing isn't that it was mine. The important thing is that this jacket was actually worn to the Avengers Endgame world premiere. And I'm going to be giving that away. Probably going to try to come up with something this week that I can do a giveaway with it for. Okay. Lemuel James writes, do you use different recording equipment for the best movie, worst movie podcast? The audio is shockingly crisp. No, I use the exact same equipment. The difference is that with the podcast, which is pre-recorded and not live, I can do some post-production work on the audio. And I do a little bit of post-production work on the audio for the podcast because it's not live. I obviously can't do that live, but I can do post-production work on the audio after the fact before I put up the podcast. So it's the exact same equipment, same mixer, same mics, same everything, but I'm able to bring it into Adobe Audition and do a little bit of processing on the audio. That's why it probably sounds a little bit different. Good ear, man. I'm glad you asked that. Ryan Lohner writes, my father's first question after I got back from Endgame is, did Batman die? I heard Batman dies. I answered no, but Harry Potter did. I love it. That sounds like something my dad would say. Did Batman die? I heard Batman dies. That's great. Thanks for sharing that, Ryan. Johnny Mia writes, binging Lucifer season 4 and that scene in episode 3 at the end with Lucifer and Chloe. Oh my God, amazing. I love the show. Dude, Ann and I on Friday night, we had already seen 2 episodes of season 4, and then Friday night we binged the final 8. So we're done Lucifer season 4 now. God, I love this show. Oh my God, such a good show. And for those of you who've seen the whole thing, now bow before your king. Oh my God, it's like Yes. I love that show, man. I'm glad you're enjoying it so far, Johnny. All right. Jared McBride writes, John, did you see that Marvel video that the Avengers Endgame cast did with the song We Didn't Start the Fire that Jimmy Fallon did with the cast? I loved it. I've seen it all over the place, but I've never watched it. I remember they did a bunch of stuff like that when Infinity War is coming out, but I have seen it all over the place. A bunch of people have been sharing it on social media and all that kind of stuff, but I never watched it yet myself. But I heard it's pretty good, man. I heard it's pretty good. All right. Jay Meister 25 writes, 2.48 billion, Thanos Avatar, I am inevitable. I don't think it's inevitable. That's still $300 million to go. And it's almost out of gas. It's running out of gas. I still think it'll get there. I still think it will pass Avatar. But it is not inevitable, and I do not think it's a lock. I think it'll happen. If I had to put $5 on it, I'd say it's going to happen. But I don't think it's a lock. Let's see here. Hector Jeter writes, Happy Mother's Day to all the mamas. Indeed, happy Mother's Day to everybody out there. Thanks for that, Hector. And Hector follows up. I haven't heard anyone mention this, but did seem like Scott Lang's daughter aged like 10 years to you, not 5. She was no more than 10 in Ant-Man 2. I remember at first thinking that. But like when I see her come to the door, when Scott's at the door and she comes out, I thought, she looks like she's 20. But at the end of the movie, when Scott and Wasp and Scott's daughter are all just sitting on that porch, then she looked like she was like 15. In that shot, she looked like she was 15 or 16 years old. So I agreed at first, like when she first comes over, I'm like, she looks like she could be like 20. But then when I saw her at the end of the movie sitting there with her dad, I thought, oh, no, now she looks like she's 15 or 16. Now she looks like a teenage girl. And then it just looked different to me at that point. So there you go. Cinematic Galaxy writes, thinking of skinny Steve Rogers fighting the bully in the first Avenger, to him fighting the biggest bully, Thanos, with Mjolnir just gives me chills. You know what I love? That scene, because, you know, to me, Captain America is my favorite MCU character. And he is the leader of the Avengers. The fact that they did that big spinning shot when all the unsnapped come through. So you got Thanos' armies over here. You got Cap and the Avenger and the Wakandan armies and everybody. So you got all of them there. And they cut to Thanos as the head of that army, and they cut to Cap as the head of his, and everybody rallying behind Cap. That, for me, since Cap is my favorite character, just kind of putting the explanation point on it that Cap is the leader of the MCU, that was a really, really great moment. And then, of course, Mjolnir flying to his hand, because he, other than Thor, is the only one worthy of wielding it. Oh my God, chills, man. Just absolute chills. All right, Anthony R. writes, I really hope Endgame can beat Avatar. My girlfriend keeps asking why I care so much. It's because I want a comic movie to be #1 in the world. I have no vested interest. I don't care if Endgame is the #1 movie in the world. If it does, it doesn't make the movie any better. If it doesn't become the #1 movie in the world, it doesn't make the movie any worse. So honestly, I have no vested interest. I really don't care. I am curious to see if it becomes the #1 all-time film. I'm curious. Yeah, I'm really interested to find out. But I've got no vested interest in whether it does or doesn't. It doesn't make the movie any worse if it doesn't. It doesn't make the movie any better if it does. It is what it is. But yeah, there are a lot of people who are kind of cheering for it. I really don't care. I'm just very curious to see what that really does. I'm telling you what, though, man. The fact that Avatar has been the #1 film for 10 years is insane. Just insane. So we'll see how that all kind of turns out. The Doke sends in a super chat. Thank you so much, Doke. Where are we at next here? Marie Seafring writes, already bought tickets to Spider-Man Far From Home for the second. I have not yet, but you know what? I should get on that. Like last night, Ann and I bought our tickets for Aladdin, and then we got our tickets for John Wick. I should probably just go ahead and get my tickets for Far From Home as well. So you're ahead of the game, Marie. Good idea, and thanks for reminding me that I need to do that. O+98 writes, Hi, John. Hope you had a good weekend so far. I have had a good weekend. Thank you so much. Rumor is that Idris Elba will replace Joe Manganiello as Deathstroke. Your thoughts on the matter? I don't believe that. I don't believe that. If he does, cool. I have no insider information that he is or he is not. There's not a rumor that he's going to be. There's speculation that he's going to be. And I don't believe that. I believe they're going to make him another character. I really do. They've already introduced Deathstroke. It's Joe Manganiello. I don't think they're going to change that. I don't think he's going to play Deathstroke. But again, they might. It's possible, but I don't think they will. But totally conceivable. Idris Elba would make a great Deathstroke after all. All right. Cinematic Galaxy writes, Endgame made Nebula my favorite Guardians character. Dude, listen, we can complain about the way the Russos managed the Hulk. I respect what they were trying to do. I'm not necessarily happy with what they did with Hulk, but I respect what they were going for. But still, I was kind of unsatisfied with that. We can complain about that. But then they took a couple of characters, the best of which was Nebula, and did more with her than anybody's ever done. And they took a throwaway side character like Nebula and made her front and center, incredibly important and incredibly compelling. What they did with Nebula, I kid you not, from a narrative and a character point of view, what they did with Nebula might be the best thing they've done. Might be the best thing they did in this movie. It really may be the best thing they did in this movie. Okay, let's see. Let's keep going here. Ben Rayner writes, didn't like Pikachu at all. World was interesting, but everything else fell flat. Glad people like it, though. I didn't think it was a well put together movie at all. But what saves the movie for me was the Pikachu what's Justice Smith? Anyway, and Justice's relationship. That dynamic, that interaction, that salvaged the movie for me. I didn't love it, but I thought it was okay. I think a lot of Pokemon fans will really enjoy it because the whole movie is just fan service for Pokemon fans. It really is. And I was with an audience on opening night, and they were all wearing Pokemon shirts and all this kind of stuff, and they had a blast. And that's the important thing. But yeah, I didn't think it was a very well put together movie, though, other than the fact that you had a lot of Pokemon on there, and it was very adorable, and some good laughs in there as well. But it kind of stops at that for me. But I think if you're a Pokemon fan, you're going to have a better time at it. Ben follows up with, would you put Gifted Season 2 up with the first 2 seasons of Arrow? No. I like the first 2 seasons of The Gifted very much. But the first 2 seasons of Arrow, I mean, it's the best thing CW's ever done, in my opinion, as far as the whole Arrowverse goes. Anything they did with Flash, anything they did with Legends, anything they've done with Black Lightning, anything they've done at all, the first 2 seasons, I believe, of Arrow is the best stuff they've ever did. And while I really enjoyed Gifted Season 1, you know I really like Gifted Season 1 and 2, it's not in the same league, in my opinion, just in my opinion. It's not in the same league as the first 2 seasons of Arrow. To me, Arrow is head and shoulders above everything else in that kind of subcategory, if you will. So anyway, that's just kind of my thought on that. DMV fan 123 writes, have you seen the Lokisha trailer? Guy kind of looks like you, to be honest. I don't even know what that is, so nope, haven't seen it, to be honest. Nick writes, hope you've had a good weekend. Nice haircut. Well, yeah, it's the same haircut I always get. Like, I hate my hair. I haven't had good hair since I had my long band playing days hair. Back when I used to play in bands, I had my hair down to here. Ever since then, my hair has always sucked. So I always get the same haircut. Same haircut. I get the clippers, 6 on the top, 2 on the sides and the back, blend it in a bit. Same boring haircut. I've never had good. My hair sucks, but it is low maintenance haircut. I like being able to brush my hair with a face cloth. Let's just put it that way. I like just rolling out of bed, just going, there, my hair is done, and not having to worry about it because I'm lazy. But thank you for that, Nick. All right. Jeff Mitchell sends in a super chat. Thank you, Jeff. Kyle Macero writes, let me take you on a little trip, my supersonic ship. I don't know what that's from. I don't recognize that. The Bomb Horse writes, ever consider doing a Monday box office report segment? I have. I used to do it all the time on my previous shows. I'll probably, but it's funny you mentioned that because I've actually been talking to a couple people about relaunching that again. So yeah, I'll probably get around to doing that. Because remember, I even used to do it on the John Campea Show. I used to do a Monday morning box office report. I'll probably get back around to doing it again. I probably will. Let's see. A fan of Peanuts writes, where are we at here? Just watching Guardians 2 while listening to you on the phone. Nice. I'm glad you can multitask like that, man. That's great. Daryl Bess Wadley writes, feel free to give me a none of your damn business in this question. Yeah, Daryl, it's none of your damn business. Fan of Peanuts writes, now I'm ready for Sunday's Game of Thrones after discussion. That's right, because you accidentally put that in yesterday, right? I remember that, a fan of. Yeah, so we're going to be talking Game of Thrones tonight after the show. I got a feeling this is the big episode. Because, traditionally, what they've done in recent years is that Game of Thrones usually has the big episode is the second last episode of the season. And then the last episode is usually really good, but it's about wrapping things up, So I got a feeling the Iron Throne is going to be determined today. I don't know that. I'm just guessing, but we'll have to wait and see. Hannah Ringwald writes, had a movie night with my dad. That's great. Showed him American Animals, Prisoners, and Black Swan. He couldn't stop saying, oh my God, through all of them. Especially to me. Now, I finally got around. I was very late to the party on American Animals. But Prisoners and Black Swan. Oh. And I think I like Black Swan even a little bit more than Prisoners. But, it's funny because somebody the other day was asking me, Hannah, what's my favorite Jake Gyllenhaal performance? And while there are a lot of them, I think I got to go with his performance in Prisoners. Or no, really, I got to go with his performance in Nightcrawler for sure. But Prisoners would be right up there. Him, Hugh Jackman, so good. Black Swan, oh my God. Natalie Portman, so good. That's a nice movie night. That's a really nice movie night, Hannah. Okay. Daryl Suthius writes, where did we go? There we are. Hey, Mr. C. Well, it looks like S.H.I.E.L.D. this season is indeed going the route of fake death and alternate reality. Coulson is back, but it's not Coulson. Apparently, he's from an alternate reality and he's a bad guy. And I don't care. I'm not surprised to hear it. Oh, Coulson's dead, but he's back. But it's not the real Coulson. Doesn't matter. It's still Coulson and he's back. That just sounds like another bad thing that a show that I believe is a bad show is going to do. I wish I liked it, man. I really do. I hating anything that's comic book material. Because comic book material stuff is so inventive and creative and it's imaginative and it just makes it a better environment for other creative comic book stuff. I hate hating comic book stuff. I hate hating Supergirl. I hate hating Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I hate that I hated Inhumans. I hate that. I wish I liked it. I really wish I do, but yeah, Darth, that just sounds like another bad thing being added to a bad show, but we'll see. But again, I don't think I'm going to watch it. I've tapped out, unfortunately. Gio writes, have you watched Ballers with The Rock? Really good. No, I still have not. It's crazy. I love The Rock. I've got HBO and I've never watched Ballers. One of these days, I'm just going to start binging that start binging it, see if I like it at all. But I hear good things about it. I've never had anybody tell me that it's a bad show. So I have no idea why I haven't started watching this. I got to get on that. Okay. Jacob Hudman writes, AMC Closet Fan, what's your biggest hope for Phase 4? Since the closet days of AMC. What's my biggest hope for Phase 4? Just that they make great movies. That's it. That's it. Just make great movies. I don't go into anything with a specific detail that I want them to hit. I just want to see them make great movies. If they can just continue doing what they've been doing for the past 11 years, I'm totally happy. Now, it is going to be, especially this next two or 3 years, it's going to be really interesting. We're going to have an MCU without Captain America and Iron Man at the core of the MCU. That's different. That's really different. And so I'm going to be very curious to see how they navigate this. And Kevin Feige has said for years now that Captain Marvel is about to kind of be the front and center face of the MCU. That doesn't mean she's going to be the leader of the Avengers necessarily, but so it's going to be interesting to see how they incorporate that. The Eternals is a really big question mark. Shang-Chi is a brand new property coming. It's going to be cool to see how they do that. Yeah. What I would love to see them do is close out the multiple reality stuff, because I don't like that stuff at all, but that's just me. Let's see how they handle it. Maybe they do something great with it. We'll find out. Okay. I'm going to take a couple of more here, guys, and then we're going to take a 5-minute break so I can go. And we've been going for about an hour. I'm going to go refill my drink, rest my voice for a minute. So we're just going to take a couple more, and then we're going to take a quick 5-minute break. All right. Hector Jeter writes, over under 99%. Dominic Toretto could have made an Infinity Gauntlet from his garage using spare parts. Of course he could have. Dominic Toretto is the one and only true Mary Sue character in all of moviedom right now. He can do anything. He's a guy who's fixing cars, but he's really the biggest badass secret agent in the world. I mean, and I really get a kick out of Fast and Furious. I love Vin Diesel. I love a lot of stuff they do with Dom in the movies, but it does frustrate me that he's the ultimate untouchable, perfect in every single way, Dominic Toretto. But yeah, he would have made an Infinity Gauntlet probably in half the time that Tony did. And then he just would have punched Thanos in the face with it and ended it right there. That's what they would have done if it was Dominic Toretto. All right, Darth Suthius writes, where do we go? Here's another one for you. Of the 39 $1 billion plus movies, only 3 had bigger domestic totals than foreign. Really? Black Panther, Rogue One, and The Dark Knight. I didn't. That's another good one, Darth Suthius. Really? Only 3 had bigger domestic total. I would have thought it might have been a couple of more of those. Oh yeah, I guess The Force Awakens made over 900 million, but I guess since it made over 2 billion, that means more movie came from the international markets. That's an interesting figure, Darth. Thank you. I like that. Thanks for sharing that, man. All right. Last question we'll take for now, and then we're going to take a short break. Is a fan of Peanuts writes, I love Game of Thrones. Each season to me is a 10 out of 10 for TV quality and enjoyment. No hate. I do think this is the weakest season for the characters. 9.9 out of 10. There is my hate, John LOM. Yeah, I mean, look, it's cool if everybody, we're going to have our favorites, our least favorites, all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I found a couple of the seasons kind of slow. This season I found spectacular, personally. I think this might be my second favorite season. I think last season was probably my favorite. This season is probably my second favorite so far. But I wouldn't rank any of them 10 out of 10s personally. That's just me. But again, I'm not a hardcore Game of Thrones fan. I don't know all the lineages of all the houses. I never read the books, and I never will. Anything like that. I'm just a TV fan that I'm enjoying watching this show. But yeah, I've been having a really good time with it. All right, I said that was the last one. I'll take one more, then I'll take the break. Dirk Walker writes, keep your friends rich and your enemies rich and wait to find out which is which. That sounds familiar, but again, I don't know that one off the top of my head. I really don't. Okay, guys, I am now going to take a 5-minute break. As soon as we get back, we'll continue things on with Christopher James, Alex Spur, Abley, or if I'm pronouncing that right or wrong. We'll be right back. Hang out for just a few minutes. I'll be back in just a couple. See you in a minute. right, guys, and we are back, ready to get things rolling here again. Thank you for indulging me as I took a little break there to rest up for a second. All right, let's keep things going now here, and we're going to get things started back off here with Christopher James, who writes, Bucky should have got the gauntlet. With all of the things he went through, it would have been a good way for him to redeem himself in his eyes. Well, there's a couple problems with that. Number one, he would have died. So it would have killed him. That leads into problem number two. They've got a Bucky and Falcon show planned. So they needed him alive. So if Bucky had put that thing on, even with his, vibranium arm, it would have killed him. And then following up that, kind of like it killed Tony, they need him around because they have a Bucky and Falcon show. So yeah, it would have been a really good redemption. I think it would have been a great redemption. And then imagine the great scene at Bucky's funeral later of Tony talking to Cap and saying, I guess he was one of the best of us after all. He sacrificed himself for the rest. I mean, that could have been a really cool scene. Yes, I agree. But unfortunately, that's something that wouldn't have worked with the plans that they had, unfortunately. All right. Alex Spur writes, do you think Jordan Peele is the best horror director today? No. He did one really great film with Get Out. He did one good film. I think Us is good. I think Us is a good movie, but it's also got a lot of problems. The ending makes absolutely no sense. It's got so many logic holes, but it's a good, entertaining movie. I enjoyed it, but no, you put out two good movies. That's not enough to me to make you the best horror director today. He made one great one, and then he made one good one. Not better than okay, good. I mean, it was good, but no, best horror movie today. No, you got to do a lot more. You got to do a lot more than that to even pretend to take that title, I think. Abley writes, can't believe I got the gauntlet prediction right. You called it impossible and stupid. Then you're calling it impossible and stupid now. Love you, man. I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, what? There's 1,000 things that. Are you talking about the gauntlet that they made a gauntlet? Are you talking about the gauntlet that Tony ended up with the gauntlet? Are you saying that Tony was able to do the snapping of the fingers? I mean, here's the thing. Another reason why that was absolutely ridiculous is, so you got to be a little bit more specific. But what they did with it was impossible and stupid. Like, Hulk could barely keep it together just wearing that thing. And that was Hulk wearing it. The fact that Tony was even able to survive more than 3 seconds was ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Now, Tony sacrificing himself to do everything, that was a really nice send-off for him. That was a really nice send-off. But the very fact that that gauntlet existed was idiotic. The fact that, I mean, they should have come up with, if they needed another gauntlet, they should have come up with another narrative way to do it. That's my opinion at any rate. They should have, like, if you're going to have Hulk put it on and him go, that's Hulk. Tony should have just died instantly. The moment he put that Infinity Gauntlet on, Tony should have died instantly. But whatever, they didn't. Which is fine. That's okay. Because the payoff we got, but it was like a lot of the other stupid, dumb plot hole things in Endgame. I'm okay with it at the end of the day because it delivered a great payoff. Tony and his sacrifice and that moment that he had with Pepper at the end and with Peter, if you got to tell me I've got to accept this really ridiculous notion and this stupid thing about, if you're telling me I got to accept that to get the payoff that we got, I'll take it. I'll take it because the payoff was so incredible. Let's see. Southern Comfort just sends a super chat. Thank you, Southern Comfort. All right, Darth Suthius writes, all right, over under 60% that you and Mr. B will finish the Endgame spoiler questions before the end of its theatrical run. Just pulling your, well, we've already had 4 parts come out. Like, it's not like we're stalled on them. We've already had 4 parts. We had the 5-hour one. Then we've had like 3 of them that are well over an hour each. So we're making good progress. We're almost done. We're almost through all of them. They should be all done by the end of the week, actually. We should be all caught up by the end of the week. Southern Comfort then writes, cost me $5. to F this up the first time. Anywho, from the entire MCU collection, what would be your top 5 favorite character list look like? I generally don't like doing lists. I don't like putting together lists, but I have said recently that I think my top 2 are definitely Captain America's my number 1. That's easy, which is weird because Captain America's not, I would go so far as to say he's not even in my top 20 favorite comic book characters. Probably not even in my top 20. But in the MCU, the way they've used him and the way they portrayed him and the way Chris has kind of played the role, he's my absolute favorite character in the MCU. And then I've also said recently that I believe right next to him is probably Thor. I've loved Thor since Thor 1. I adore that movie. I love it. I've loved Ragnarok. I love the way he's portrayed in the movies, all that kind of stuff. And so Thor's probably my number 2. I don't know what my other 3 would be. I'm not going to try to put together a list on the spur of the moment, but I can tell you that my top two are Cap and Thor. So anyway, that's as much as I can say, I guess. All right, Marvel Reviews writes, Silvestri's score is amazing. Portals is my favorite. Yeah, look, I've never been overwhelmingly thrilled with any of the scores in the MCU, to be honest with you. But for whatever reason, whether because the score was better or because now there's emotional backstory to the scores, I felt the score in Endgame more than in any other of the MCU films. I think it was the best use of score in this game, absolutely off the top in my head. All right, Nicholas Glenn writes, where are we at here? Nicholas Glenn writes, went to 7 Target stores this morning to get the Star Wars retro figures. My brother-in-law stood in line at a Target for hours and got them. They actually sent me the pictures early. He got all the stuff. Did Ann snag you a set? And do you know which ones they are releasing next? They look great. I do not know. I did not ask for them. Honestly, I got nowhere to put anything. I don't have anywhere to put anything. So no, I didn't ask Ann to snag me. So I could get them if I wanted them because, you know, Ann is a senior person at Hasbro, so I could get them. But honestly, if I got them, they'd just go into a drawer somewhere, and I wouldn't want that. So I'm probably not going to get them. I don't know what they're coming out with next. I know they got the Escape. They also re-released the Escape from the Death Star game, which I had as a kid. I might see if I can get that again. I might see if I can get my hands on that. But again, my brother-in-law stood in line at Target, did the whole thing this morning. So congratulations, Stan. All right. Dirk Walker writes, Tony spent time studying the Mind Stone and even knew how to tap into its intelligence to create Ultron. He may have used it to design his gun. Again, that's stupid. I mean, what you're saying is what they did in the movie, and it's idiotic and stupid. There are civilizations, centuries and thousands, millennia more advanced than us that would take generations to study that stuff. Oh, but Tony? Yeah, give him the Mind Stone for a day. Make up a gauntlet in 24 hours. Solve time travel. It's idiotic. It's absolutely idiotic. Again, we get the payoff, which I wouldn't trade out the payoff because I love the payoff. So there, I'll take it. I'll take it. But it is stupid and idiotic. It's absolutely idiotic. Christopher James writes, how cool if they made a Ronin/Punisher team-up show. They're two identical characters in a way. So I actually, if I was somebody at Marvel and they brought that up, I'd say it's probably not a good idea. Yeah, I'm going to say it's probably. Now, we do know that we're getting a Hawkeye show coming. We're getting a Hawkeye show, but I just don't see that as a good match at this point. Nick writes, Cobra Kai, like Endgame, slow start, huge payoff. Trust me. I'm done. I tried Cobra Kai. I gave it 5 episodes. I'm done with it. Again, I celebrate that other people love it. That's awesome. My own wife loves it, but it's not for me. Storm Chaser 78 writes, Lucifer was really good. Thank you, Netflix. Again, thank you, Netflix, for saving this show. I just hope they get a season 5 now, especially with the way season 4 ended. I really hope we get a season 5. Fingers crossed. I don't know that enough people are watching it, though. I'm skeptical that it's going to get a season 5 because I don't know that enough people are watching it, unfortunately. Darth Suthius writes, I like how Scott points out certain tropes we see in movies. In Ant-Man 2, when their hat/glasses disguise is just them going to a baseball game. And in Endgame, when he points out the S.H.I.E.L.D. strike team literally look like bad guys. That was great. He's like, those guys are Hydra? Yeah, well, we didn't know at the time. How did you not know? They look like bad guys. It was a very good observation. I'm telling you what, I love the way ever since that first Ant-Man movie came out, I am an unabashed, huge Ant-Man fan in the MCU. Again, not even in my top 20 favorite comic book characters, but in the MCU, love him. I love the way they portrayed him. I love the way he talks. He's just such a different type of character. You know, honestly, one of the great things they've done in the MCU, and you really see it in Endgame, is that every character is very unique and different from the next. Nebula is nothing like Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel is nothing like Natasha. Natasha is nothing like Rhodey. Rhodey is nothing like Rocket. Rocket is nothing like Hulk. Hulk is nothing like Steve. Steve is nothing like Tony. And on and on and on. They find these ways to not just bring in new characters. They bring in new characters and make each of them completely unique from everybody else in the roster. And I believe Ant-Man coming into Endgame added another really great dimension, a character type that we have not seen before. We see other characters who are funny, but very different from his character. And I think that's one of the things that the Russo brothers did so well. Well, I mean, Joss Whedon started that with the first Avengers, and then as the crew and the cast has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, the Russo brothers did a fantastic job of that, incorporating all these characters, but making sure all of them are very unique and very distinct, and each bring their own dimension to the story. And I think it was just phenomenal. And Ant-Man is definitely a big part of that, Darth. Let's see. Melvin Rosa writes, hello, John Campea. I personally would have watched Ed a few more times. Oh, and you probably mean Endgame at EG. I personally would have watched Endgame a few more times if it had been a 2-hour film instead of 3. Me too. Is that your take on it? And do you think many other people as well? Oh, I know for a fact. Yes. I know for a fact there are many people. I've talked to many people. It's like, yeah, I'm looking forward to come out on video, but it's a 3-hour movie. I've seen it twice. I'm not going to go back again. I think had it been a 2-hour, but then again, if it had been a 2-hour movie, we would have lost out on a lot of the great stuff. I know I probably would be heading to the theater to see it a couple more times if it were a 2-hour movie. But would this particular movie have been as good if they took out... I do think there was a good 15, 20 minutes of stuff in this movie they could have taken out. But an hour? Nah, I don't think there's an hour of stuff that you could take out without messing with the narrative, to be honest with you. So had they taken out an hour, would I want to see this movie more times? I don't know. That's the trade-off, right? That's the thing we got to think about, Melvin, is I would be more likely to go if it were 2 hours instead of 3 for a 5th time. But if this movie were 2 hours, would it have lost too much of its narrative to make me want to see it a 5th time? That's an intriguing question, so I'm not really sure. It's a good question. Mellow Reviews writes, hey, thanks for everything you do. My pleasure, man. I love MCU and the DCU movies. Final hour of Endgame has to be one of the best comic book movie scenes ever. Over under 50%, the DCU movies will have a scene like Endgame in the next 6 years. They'll have their own scene. Now, remember, you could make an argument that they had a scene like that in Justice League. You had the whole Justice League together fighting against Steppenwolf with all of his legions and stuff like that. I mean, so you could make an argument. By the way, they had another scene like that in the flashback, right? When we saw the Green Lanterns and the Atlanteans and the Amazons and the various heroes all fighting Darkseid, not Darkseid, but Steppenwolf and his guys, the what are the demons called again? Why am I freezing on the name of the demons? Anyway, with all those, they've had scenes like that. Not as big or as grand, but they had scenes like that. Within the next, so I don't know. Well, maybe within the next 6 years, maybe. Remember, right now, DC, though, is saying that they are not in universe building mode right now. They're into making standalone excellent movies. That's what their goal is right now. Their focus is on standalone individual films. And they'll get back around to universe building. So 6 years, I don't know. It's close. It's close. Let's see how their individual films do, though, before we get to that. All right. Dirk Walker writes, In Far From Home, I hope some of Peter's friends survive the snap, regardless of if the actors look 5 years older or not. Well, I'm sure, odds are, I'm sure some of his friends did, but it looks like the key core characters, Ned, MJ, and Flash, it looks like they got snapped as well because they look the exact same age. They're on their school trip together because those characters would have been in university by now had they not been snapped. But I'm sure he has dozens of other acquaintances and minor friends that didn't get snapped and are now graduated university. So I'm sure that's the case. But it looks like our core characters got snapped with them. Okay. Abraham Ruiz writes, one of two. If you told me 10 years ago that we would see Spider-Man flying in the air by hanging on to Mjolnir while also holding an Infinity Gauntlet, and that hammer was thrown by Captain America, I love the way you're putting this, man, and that hammer was thrown by Captain America and also wearing an Iron Spider suit made by Stark, I'd have slapped you. Seriously, think about it. We see Spider-Man flying through the air holding on to Mjolnir, which are thrown by Captain America. I mean, it's kind of like what Robert is often talking about on the show, right? It's like, it wasn't that long ago that something like that was absolutely inconceivable. It was not that long ago when something like that was beyond our wildest dreams. Like, can you imagine going back to your, I don't know, 2005 self and say, hey, in the not too distant future, you're going to get a movie where in one of the big climactic battles, you're going to see Spider-Man flying through the air, holding on to Thor's hammer Mjolnir, which, by the way, was thrown by Captain America. Can you imagine that? Like, you'll be, come on, they can't. How are you going to do that? And yet here we are. It was the thing about Endgame. I keep talking about the payoff in Endgame, right? It's got its problems, but the problems all led to big payoff. There are so many payoff moments in Endgame that if you had told us in 2005 or 2006 or whatever that we were going to get these pretty soon, we would have thought unimaginable. I can't even wrap my head around that, And yet here we are in Endgame watching these scenarios that not long ago would have been inconceivable. And we're watching these scenarios come to life. Imagine telling like a teenage girl in 2007 who's into comic books and loves comic book stuff and telling her, by the way, not too many years from now, you're going to get this epic battle scene in a comic book movie where rallying together for a big surge is Wasp, is Scarlet Witch, is Captain Marvel, is Okoye, is Gamora, is Black Widow, and on and on and on. Imagine telling a teenage girl in 2005, 2006, 2007, there's a movie coming where you're going to see this. There's going to be this moment in the battle when like 7, 8, 9, 10 of these MCU heroines are going to gather together for a big surge push. Imagine that. And imagine the scenario that Abraham just kind of painted out for us, right? Oh yeah, you're going to see Spider-Man flying through the air, holding on to Mjolnir, which is thrown by Captain America. And for those of you who are into the Iron Spider costume, which I am not, but for those of you who are, he's wearing the Iron Spider costume at the same time, by the way. Oh, and then he's going to get shot out of the sky, and Captain Marvel's going to be there. He's going to hand off a gauntlet to Captain Marvel. Who then is going to go and he's going to blow in the sky by Thanos and have a big fight with Thanos before she ultimately gets knocked out. But you're going to see Captain Marvel and Thanos going toe-to-toe. Imagine telling yourself that from 2005. Like, just the amount of sheer incredible, inconceivable payoff moments we get in this movie is absolutely nuts. And it's one of the reasons why a smile comes on my face when I think about this movie. Despite the problems, despite the stupid stuff they do, despite all of that, I cannot help but get a giant, ridiculous idiot grin on my face whenever I think about this movie and all the things that they were able to put into it. All right. Let's see. Edgar Navarro writes, surprisingly seeing Endgame for the second time today, my heart had to recover before going in again. Filthians assemble. I like that. Filthians. That's a good one. Yeah, again, I've seen it 4 times. I still don't know if I'll see the 5th. I might see the 5th. Not sure. But yeah, there's just so much. Like, you walk out just exhausted in a good way. Like, you walk out like, oh my God, what did I just see? I mean, it's just one of those movies, man. So I hope you have a good time on your second viewing, dude. All right, Marie Seifring writes, in Spider-Man Far From Home, do you think Mysterio uses magic like Doctor Strange or tech? Good question, because here's the thing. I did this, I pulled a couple of stills. Let me see if I can find the same thing here. Magic symbols. Let me see if I can. I'm not sure if I can. Okay. I think it is here. Okay, let me bring up this image, okay? Because I brought this up, but there are others as well, right? In the very first one, in the very first Far From Home trailer, right? We got this image. Let me see if I can make that any bigger here. Give me a second here. Let me see if I can make this larger for us. We got this image, right? Now look closely. This is from that first Far From Home trailer where Mysterio swoops in. Notice right in front of his hand, this is a low res image, but you've got that triangle eye of knowledge symbol, like when you see it in the trailer and it's spinning around in circles and stuff like that. And I remember doing my first discussion about that first Spider-Man trailer, bringing this up and saying, wait a minute. Wasn't that symbol used in Doctor Strange at some point? And that to me has also become one of the key questions, Marie, is like, is he using magic? Is that magic he's using? Because it kind of feels like he's using magic. There are other shots as well where that kind of look a little bit like some of the insignias and whatever that are used by Doctor Strange when he's using the Eye of Agamotto, right? So I don't know. That is one of the questions that I also have, Marie, moving forward now as we're going into Spider-Man Far From Home. That's another one of the questions. It's like, wait a minute, is this tech? Is this or is this magic? Is he straight up using magic? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. I think there's a 50-50 chance, but let's see once we get into the movie. But you're thinking the exact same things I'm wondering about, Marie. All right, Colby Harris writes, where'd we go? Oops. Knock my microphone around. I see what you mean about hot toys. I just bought the Avengers Iron Man and first Thor. Yep, good luck, man. Good luck not buying 5 more. I've said this before, I'll say it again. The reason I do not own 4 is because, or I do not own 5, is because if I buy 1 more, I'm going to then buy 6. I bought 1 hot toy, and then in the blink of an eye, I had 3 more. They're dangerous, they're seductive, and they're expensive. It's not like Pops, because the Pops are like $8 a piece, whatever. I can buy 10 tomorrow and fine. You know, drop $80, get 10 of them, fine. But the hot toys are like $300. Some of them between $300 and $400. And they're awesome. So you get one, it's like, so I bet, Colby, now that you got 2 of them, you're probably looking at them going, you know which one would look really good beside it? It's dangerous. It's dangerous. So hang strong, man. I'm Upset writes, is the Silk, Nightwatch, and Jackpot films happening? I have no idea. No idea at this point. I don't really know much about them. KJ Lovelace writes, Star Trek 4 news, one of the best franchises in 20 years. None. I mean, it looks like Star Trek 4 is dead. It looks like it. It looks like the Star Trek movies, and it's too bad because I love the J.J. Abrams Star Trek films. Particularly the last one, and I can't remember what the name of the last one was. Anyway, I loved it. And then they talked immediately about doing the next one with Chris Pine and Chris Hemsworth, where Hemsworth was going to play Captain Kirk's dad again. So excited. But then they had contract negotiations fall apart. Basically, right now it looks like all of the Star Trek energy is being put towards television. So that's the last. I haven't heard anything else new recently. Ariel Sandoval writes, have you seen Forbes' top MCU movie list? I know it's all subjective, but boy, is it unorthodox. Homecoming at number 21, going worst to best, I was intrigued. No, I don't really care. I mean, look, everybody's list will look different. And nobody's list is more definitive than anybody else's. So like I did my ranking video recently about ranking the from 1 to 21, the MCU films. But one of the things I said at first is like, but remember, my list isn't going to look like your list. And my list is no more important than your list. But here's how I do it. So I don't really care how Forbes lists them out. I have no interest in knowing how Forbes lists them out, because even if their list looks exactly like mine, it doesn't make it any better. I mean, it's just another person making a list, same as you, same as me. So now I haven't seen it. But putting Homecoming at 21, that does seem odd, but hey, it's all subjective, man. It's all subjective. All right. Robot Chicken writes, many are excited about the X-Men joining the MCU, but I personally am really going to miss the Fox X-Men movies. Me too. Actually, it is the reason I was cheering for Comcast to win the Fox battle. I wanted for Comcast because I wanted X-Men kept separate from the MCU. Had the MCU been in possession of the X-Men comics, we never would have gotten Logan. One of the top 3 greatest comic book movies ever of all time. We never would have got it. We never would have got Deadpool. Never. We never would have gotten Deadpool 2. We never would have gotten Days of Future Past. I mean, it's just, now they're going to become like all the other ones in an already dangerously overcrowded universe. I kind of wish they kept them separate, but they're not. Hey, at least they're going to keep Deadpool separate, and maybe they'll section out certain X-Men characters to put over in Deadpool's R-rated universe under Fox instead of under Marvel. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Look, but do not misinterpret me. Kevin Feige's going to do a great job because that's what Kevin Feige does. But yeah, I liked a different, completely independent studio running these things because we got X-Men 1. Like, yeah, there were a couple of bad X-Men films, but we got X-Men 1, which is fantastic. We got X-Men 2, which is ridiculously fantastic. We got Days of Future Past, which I think is one of the top 10 comic book movies of all time. We got Logan. We got Deadpool. And these are things that never would have happened under Marvel. They never would have ventured into R-rated material. They never would have done it. Fox had to do it first, and now Marvel's like, oh, okay, maybe we can do it. I mean, so I'm with you, Robot Chicken. I'm with you. But again, I know Kevin Feige will do something great with the X-Men. Let's just wait and see. It's a few years away, but let's wait and see. Ant Banks 1984 writes, I'm like you, John. Sending Captain America to put the stones back wasn't realistic. Now, if it was Chuck Norris, that would have made more sense. Yeah, to me, the whole thing, someone's got to explain that to me. Okay, getting the stones is so important that we need to send the whole team broken into 3 individual units to go different because it's that important that they succeed. But now, certain realities are going to be messed up and destroyed and sent into chaos unless we get these stones put back. It's just as important. The mission of taking these stones back is just as important as the mission of getting them. Send one guy. Send one guy. That's stupid. That was ridiculous that they did that. That's just screaming, oh, this isn't important. But you said it was super important. And when it was super important, you sent the whole team to make sure it got done. Now you're sending one guy. Granted, the one guy is Captain America. Great. But you're sending one guy? That's idiotic. That made no sense. That made absolutely no sense. But anyway, that's just me. Let's see. Where are we at? Ariel Sandoval writes, I remember someone suggested on the show that Tony might not care to go out of his way in Endgame because he still had his family. It rung kind of true. Well, I mean, no, ultimately at the end, look, one of the things that I thought they did great with Tony was they really emphasized how much he valued what he now had. He had his life with Pepper. He had his daughter, Morgan. And that was more important to him than anything else. And that's why I love the conversation that when he showed up to Avengers headquarters and said to Captain America, look, my priorities here, fix everything that got done? Absolutely. But protecting what I have now, that's my priority. And I love that he had that conversation with Cap because it really drove home just how much now his life was about Morgan, his daughter. And I believe that the reason he put on that glove and did the snap was ultimately Morgan. It was the fact that he had to protect her. And I think ultimately that's what it was. And I thought that was, and you're right, it completely rung true even more for me at the end. It's one of the more beautiful things, one of the more beautiful threads that ran throughout that movie. And I loved it. I loved the way they kind of handled that. I thought they handled that in a really, really good way. Let's see. Where are we at here? Sorry, we had another jump. Okay, here we go. A fan of Peanuts writes, the final Game of Thrones after talk, will it be extended? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. What we might do, I think, is just do a regular 1 hour Game of Thrones after show. And then maybe a day or two later, when we've all had a chance to process, is do a special one just talking about the entire season. Or maybe we'll go longer. I don't know. Honestly, fan of Peanuts, I haven't even thought about it, so we'll see. My name is Blue writes, on LaBeouf, DC said no to air for him in Suicide Squad 2. I did not hear that officially. So I didn't know that. That's interesting and not surprising. If that's true, and by the way, I have not heard that, but if that's true, if that report is legitimate, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all, actually. Thanks for bringing that up. Life's Good writes, have you seen Easy on Netflix? No. One of the best Netflix originals, in my opinion. Great writing, direction, and acting. 10 out of 10 would recommend. I've never even heard of it. Let me just bring it up here quick. Easy Netflix. No, I've never even heard of this thing. I'll have to watch the trailer when I'm done. Thanks for the recommendation. Life's Good. I appreciate that. All right. Nick writes, since the MCU, I notice a lot more TV and film universes. Were there any live action universes when you were growing up? If not, do you think they would have been nearly as successful back then as they are now? I can't think of any. I mean, there really just weren't a lot of franchises. Right? There weren't a lot of movie franchises going on. I mean, you had Godfather, you had Star Wars, you had stuff like that, but there weren't a lot of them. But big interconnected shared cinematic universe stuff, no, I mean, that just wasn't around. You had a little bit of that on TV. There was some of that on TV. A-Team would cross paths with Smith and Smith, I think it was called. Was it Smith and Smith? Anyway, you would have Different Strokes was in a shared cinematic, I mean, really, Different Strokes was in a shared cinematic universe with Facts of Life. They were in a shared cinematic universe. You would have characters would cross over one show to another. They used to do that all the time back in the 80s. You'd see that happen quite a bit. But on the movie sense, I don't know if I remember it being in that. And would it have succeeded? I don't know. Hard to say. It's actually impossible to say. I have no idea. But I remember all that stuff was toyed with on television, but I don't remember seeing much of that in the movies. Like James Bond didn't pop up in another super spy movie. You know what I mean? But in television, we saw it quite a bit. So there's that. But would it have worked back then? I don't know. It's a good question. KJ Lovelace writes, Winter Soldier, best MCU movie, made everyone respect Cap. He was kind of lame to me prior to that movie. I disagree. I think the first Avenger was amazing. But KJ, you are not alone. I've got Winter Soldier as my number 3 best MCU movie. It's definitely in my top 5. And there are a lot of people, by the way, who don't just consider Winter Soldier to be the best MCU movie. There's a lot of people out there who consider Winter Soldier to be the best comic book movie ever made, period. To me, it's my number 3 MCU movie. Like I got the first Avengers movie is number 1 to me. Number 2 is Civil War. Number 3 is Winter Soldier. Number 4 is Infinity War. Number 5 is Endgame. So that's my top 5. I know that because I just did my top 22 list, so I got that fresh in my head. But you're not alone, KJ, man. There's a lot of people that love that movie for great reason. I still remember the first time I saw it and I walked out going, oh my God, I can't believe that was a comic book movie. It's crazy good. So good. Nick writes, thoughts on the Chicago Fire universe? I love it. I don't watch any of them except for I watch Chicago PD. I watch the cop one, but I don't watch Chicago Med. I don't watch Chicago Fire. I think there was another one. I can't remember. Chicago Law or something. I haven't watched that, so I really don't know. I do watch the cop one, and I quite enjoy Chicago PD. I actually enjoy that show quite a bit. Chris Parker writes, where are we at here? There we are. I can actually see D&D games sputtering out. Oh, Endgame, you probably meant. I can actually see Endgame sputtering out before reaching Avatar. If it comes within 50 million, let's say you could see fans on social media mobilized to go to the cinema and get it over the line. Yeah, and that's idiotic. It's idiotic. I actually had a discussion with somebody the other day. It's like, don't you think we as fans have an obligation to go out and see it more times to push it over the line? It's like, you're obligated as a fan to go and spend, you already probably spent about $100 going to see this movie. You're obligated to go more. And to me, what I said to a friend of mine the other day, and I've mentioned it on my show too, is like, if you're trying to organize people specifically with the intention of, let's just go get more people to go to it just to push it over the record line, then to me, that kind of delegitimizes the record. You know, if it crosses the record line because just people just organically kept going and went to go see the movie and it broke the record, yes. Once you start getting, hey, come on, everybody, go see it again to push it over the record, well, then that, to me, that kind of delegitimizes the record, because then it's kind of fake. Then it's artificial. Then it didn't do it on its own. So even when it's my favorite movies in the world, I don't try to encourage people, hey, go to see it just so its box office can be bigger. I don't understand that. But absolutely, Chris, will people do that? Yes, people are doing that right now. People are doing that right now. But I said, you know, when The Force Awakens, I should say, when The Force Awakens was approaching 2 billion, and I had all these people saying, come on, everybody, get out. The Star Wars fans saying, get out there so you can get over that $2 billion mark. I'm like, no, time out. Go see The Force Awakens again if you really want to go see The Force Awakens again. But don't go to see it just so you can fork over more money to them so The Force Awakens can artificially go over the $2 billion mark. Then it kind of delegitimizes the accomplishment if you're doing that. Anyway, that's just the way I see it. But yes, look, I still think it'll get the record. I still think it will. But again, it's still $300 million away. It is still $300 million away. It's got no more markets to open up into, so it's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee. But I still think it'll do it. We'll see, though. Doc Brown, thanks for the question, Chris. Appreciate that, man. Doc Brown writes, it took me 30 years to perfect time travel, not 24 hours. Thank you, Doc Brown. Thank you. I appreciate that. It took me 30 years to perfect time travel, not 24 hours. Doc Brown. A fan of Peanuts writes, will we ever get Star Wars talk again? I've always said, when I can find a co-host to do a Star Wars Talk Tuesday with me again, I will do it. And it's got to be it's got to be three things. Number one, it has to be somebody who's really a great communicator, a great on-camera communicator. Has to be one of those. I was very lucky that I know one for superhero stuff, Robert Meyer Burnett, and we are going to get Weekly Hero going again here pretty soon. But I need to find somebody who's like Robert, who, number one, is a terrific on-camera communicator. That's rare. There's not many people who are like that. Number two, they have to be incredibly knowledgeable about Star Wars. Now, I know a ton of people. I know a bunch of people who are great on-camera communicators. I know a few people who are very Star Wars knowledgeable, but it's very rare when it's the two are in the same person. And number three, it has to be somebody who's not doing any Star Wars stuff right now, who does not do any Star Wars material. So if I can find a co-host who is an excellent top shelf on-camera communicator with really deep Star Wars knowledge, who isn't already doing some kind of Star Wars show, then I'm totally, then and only then will I do Star Wars Talk Tuesday again. But I gotta say, I'm wondering if it's even worth it. I don't know, because we just found out that after episode 9, we're not getting another Star Wars movie for 3 years. So I don't know. Have to wait and see. Wes Dean writes, thoughts on It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World. I've never seen it, so I'm not really familiar with it. Edward Idle writes, Regarding question from yesterday, Star Wars was in episodes as Lucas was a fan of movie serials of the 40s and 50s, which were in episodes. They started with a written story recap, which led to the Star Wars crawl at the beginning. Again, I want to point everybody to that book one more time because I cannot recommend it enough. Star Wars, How Star Wars Conquered the Universe. Either get a hardcover, get it on your Kindle, or download it on Audible and listen to it. So many stories that really go into all of that stuff. But in particular is the influence of not only old serials and stuff like that, Edward, that were on, but even like his fascination with cars. And how George, it's amazing because it goes into how George Lucas's fascination with cars played into the creation of Star Wars. How his tragedies when he was young, like the car accident and all that kind of stuff, influenced what happened with Star Wars and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, part of the serious stuff came from his love of serials and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot that goes in there, Edward, a huge amount. And by the way, that's a really generous super chat, man. Thank you for supporting the channel on that level. And The Crawl, which was so great. Certainly not new. There were older stuff that had crawls like that as well. But I love that. It's become like the thumbprint, the identificating DNA of the Star Wars universe has been the opening crawl, which is why I hate that some Star Wars movies don't have an opening crawl. To me, that's silly, but it's a really cool thing. Thank you for sharing that, Edward. I appreciate that, man. All right. Darth Suthius writes, a coworker gave me crap for not watching sports and insisted that watching TV and movies instead is a waste and that kids shouldn't watch either. Well, that's just idiotic. I mean, look, I love sports. You know me, I'm a sports guy. If I wasn't doing movie stuff, I would be an ESPN commentator. Seriously, that's what I would be doing with my life right now, probably. That or still, I would have left working in law. I would have gone and done commentary of some sort, but I don't think people should watch sports. I think sports are amazing. I think sports are great. I think it's real drama, real human stories. But do I think people who don't watch sports should? No. If sports not your thing, sports not your thing. It's idiotic saying we as a species are storytellers. To tell people you shouldn't watch stories is idiotic. That's just stupid to me, Darth. Now, if they were trying to make the point that people waste too much time watching screens instead of doing something, maybe there's a point to be made there. But no, that's just idiot. Just ignore that person, dude. Nick writes, how long before superhero movie fatigue sets in? As soon as they start making some really bad superhero movies in a row. When that starts happening, you'll see the fatigue set in. As long as they keep making great movies that people enjoy and are entertained by, it's going to keep going until their quality starts to lapse. And it'll happen. It'll happen at some point, but I don't see it in the near future. I don't see it in the next couple of years, so we'll see. Valhalla Erickson writes, did you hear about James Cameron congratulating Marvel on Endgame sinking the Titanic? Given his stance on superhero films, I say hell is frozen over. Well, we talked about that on the John Campea Show. We showed the graphic and everything. I thought it was a very classy move on his part. Yeah, he does. Look, there's a lot of people in Hollywood who don't necessarily think the massive success of comic book movies is necessarily overall healthy for the movie industry. I disagree, but I see where they're coming from. And you get a guy like James Cameron, who, I mean, he's the most successful filmmaker of all time. I mean, he just is. And he's got that point of view as well. But that doesn't mean you can't congratulate that. I think, here's the thing. I think it's a classy move, but I think understanding his apprehension about comic book films only makes that move even more classy. I really do. Now, you know me, I have criticized James Cameron heavily for his comments, but understanding that that's where he's at, and he still went, you know what? Titanic has been in the top 2 for 22 years. For 22 years, Titanic has been in the top 2 all-time box office spots. For a movie like Endgame to come around and knock it out, for then James Cameron to step up and make that really nice gesture and make that graphic of the Avengers logo sinking the Titanic, I thought that just makes that gesture of his even more classy. I really do. And I liked it. I liked that a lot. Cinematic Galaxy writes, Rhodey was the funniest part of Endgame for me. He was not the funniest part of Endgame for me, but he was funny. That whole scene when he's running down the list of time travel movies with Ant-Man. That was great. I love the scene when him and Nebula are about to walk in to get the Power Stone. It's like when you're about to walk into something called the Temple of the Power Stone, there's going to be spears. And I mean, that was all great as well. I really like Rhodey in this movie a lot. Again, I don't think he was the funniest guy, but I think I liked him more in this movie than I have in any of the others. I really, especially that great moment that he had with Nebula when he said, hey, like when she's like you can tell she's very embarrassed and self-conscious about her hand. And she said, I wasn't always like this. And I loved his line to her. He says, neither was I, but hey, we work with what we got, right? That was amazing empathy. To me, that was just absolutely amazing empathy. And I loved, again, I just love the way they use this character in this more than any other MCU movie. Jacob Lee writes, thoughts on Charlie Kaufman, the screenwriter? Gosh, well, let me pull up, hold on a second. Just because I want to separate out here, what because remember, he's also directed a number of films, right? And he's been a producer and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, look, here's the thing. When everybody talks about Kaufman, the first thing they think about is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, right? That's not the first thing that actually comes to my head. The first thing that pops in my head, actually, when thinking about him, is actually Adaptation with Nicolas Cage. That's the first one that comes to mind. He's kind of like the Wes Anderson of screenwriters. What Wes Anderson is as a director, I find Charlie Kaufman as a screenwriter. All of his films, like, and there's some that I like and some that I don't. Like, for instance, he did, why am I freezing on this actor's name? Because I love John Malkovich. He did Being John Malkovich. I know a lot of people love Being John Malkovich. A lot of people adore that movie. I thought that movie was insufferable. I mean, honestly, I didn't like that movie at all. However, when you talk about Eternal Sunshine, by the way, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, I think is underrated. Adaptation, I think is tremendously underrated. And then he's done a bunch of television stuff as well. He's a prolific writer, and he's got some new stuff coming out. He's got Chaos Walking, of course, is supposed to be coming, but that apparently is an absolute disaster. So we'll see how that all turns out. He's got this new one coming out called I'm Thinking of Ending Things. We'll see how that one turns out. So he's one of these creators that is capable of doing some absolutely amazing stuff, but not all the stuff he does is hitting it out of the park. And Chaos Walking is one that everybody's saying is just unwatchable. But well, again, we'll see how this all turns out. A fan of Peanuts writes, if you could get only 3 more Cap or Thor solo movies, let me try this again. If you could get only 3 more Cap or Thor solo movies, which combo would you choose? 3 solid Cap films or 3 solid Thor films, or a 2-to-1 movie ratio? If Kevin Feige gave me a call, I said, John, I got like 3 spots in 2024. I want to do Thor and Cap movies. Should I do 3 of one, 3 of the other, 2 of one of that? What would you do? My preference would be 2 Cap movies and 1 Thor movie. That would be I'll take any of them though. I'll take any combination. 3 Thor, 3 Cap, whatever. I'll take them all. But what if Kevin Feige said you can have it your way, whatever way, I'd go 2 Cap movies and 1 Thor movie in no particular order. All right. Mary Fontaine writes, is Brightburn a supervillain origin story? Has Gunn talked about this movie at all? I haven't heard Gunn talk about it at all. I'm sure he has, but I've never heard him talk about it. I don't know, Marty, if you would consider it an origin movie, because I don't believe there's going to be a Brightburn 2. I believe this is a one-shot Elseworld kind of movie. That what if Superman showed up on Earth, but he was just a damaged, bad kid? Right? What if he was just a damaged, by nature, a rotten kid? What if Jor-El sent out his son to reap havoc and destruction on other worlds instead of bringing light to other worlds, So I don't know if I think it's a standalone story. I don't think it's an origin story per se. And I think it's going to end. I think the kid gets killed at the end. Nobody's told me that. I'm just taking a wild guess. But I haven't, again, to your question about have I heard Gunn talk about it, I personally haven't, Marty, but I'm sure he has somewhere if we search for it. Edward, sorry. So that was Mad World. Fan of Peanuts, Marty. Here we go. Edward Ide writes, Cap could lift Mjolnir in Civil War, but faked only budging it because while Hammer felt him worthy, Cap himself did not. No, I don't believe that. I think he tried to lift it and it just went, maybe it just wasn't time. But I've heard, you're not alone in that, Edward. I've heard other people propose that what if Thor just didn't budge it because he didn't want to embarrass, or what if Cap only budged Mjolnir because he didn't want to embarrass Thor? I don't think that. I think, because that's, in a sense, that's lying. That's lying. So, but maybe it was just a matter of timing. It wasn't his time. It wasn't his time to lift Mjolnir yet. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of theories in there, but again, like, you shouldn't kind of be able to lift Mjolnir. Either you can lift Mjolnir or you can't. So the very fact that he was able to nudge it, I think suggests, okay, so he can lift Mjolnir. Why it wasn't quite ready to go into his hand yet, we don't know. It maybe just wasn't time, but I don't know. There's a lot of theories you can have, and a lot of them are good ones. And right now we have no definitive answer, but it's a good observation, Edward. All right. Senor Eric writes, saw Apocalypse Now for the first time. Dude, I'm so glad you watched that. There are certain movies like Bridge on the River Kwai, like Lawrence of Arabia, like the original Spartacus, like The Godfather, like Apocalypse Now, that I just love when I hear that people finally get around to watching it. That's a day of celebration for all of film fandom when a film fan watches one of the classics for the first time. Glad you watched it, man. It's awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it, dude. All right, Daryl Best Wadley writes, I'm sorry if I offended you. Oh, you didn't no, Daryl, you didn't offend me. Not at all. No worry. But you asked if this is not my business. I saw you asking about me and my wife and our family. I said, nope, none of your business. But don't worry. No offense taken, my friend. No offense taken. I know you didn't mean that in any sort of a bad way. And he writes, was just in the Mother's Day spirit because my wife is celebrating her first. That's awesome, man. Especially for a first-time mom having their first Mother's Day. That's amazing. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend together. All right. Johnny West writes, what is Star Wars SC-38? Honestly, I don't know. Off the top of my head, I don't know what that is. Michael Bradley writes, hello, John. Have you seen Steve Martin movie Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid? Yes, it's been a long time, but yes. One of my favorites growing up and definitely one of a kind. It is very unique and it's really funny. Here's what I would say about Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. There's a few comedies out there that are like, you gotta kind of be in the right frame of mind or in the right mood to watch it and get it the way it's intended. And I think Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid is one of those, but it's a good one. Gosh, Michael, actually, I think you might be the first person ever on any one of my shows, from the movie blog audio edition to For Your Consideration to Movie Talk to the John Campea Show. You might be the first person ever, actually, to bring up Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. Good for you, sir. And take Michael's advice, man. If you're looking for something to watch tomorrow night, try popping in Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. It's not for everybody, but I got a big kick out of it. I think you might like it as well. All right. Ray Dog 98 writes, more important to the MCU, Favreau, Whedon, or the Russos? Whedon. And I say that because of this. You can't take away what Favreau did because he got it started. The Russos, what they did is magnificent, but it was all built on what was made before they came along, right? The characters, Captain America, Iron Man, all that stuff, and their foundations, and all that was built before they came. The Russos did a great job, but they built on the foundations that other people laid. To me, Whedon is the one, and I've heard Kevin Feige mention this before too. In Avengers, Whedon kind of defined what the MCU is with the Avengers movie, which is still to me the best MCU movie. But, you know, we had the universe forming, we had the individual character movies, we were getting a sense of a taste, but it was when they made the Avengers that this is what the MCU, it was the first time that you really got a sense, this is what the MCU is. Now, other directors have come along since and added their own things to it as well. But everything, including the Russo brothers, that they did was built on the foundation that these other filmmakers did first. That without Joss Whedon, there is no Russo brothers here, right? So all of them vitally important in their own way. But I would say the most important in the MCU would be Whedon. Patrick Conway writes, so I hear you leaked Marvel Phase 4. It's on Twitter. Leaked Marvel Phase 4? I don't even know what Marvel Phase 4 is. All we know is we got the dates that they gave us, but I don't know what that's about. I honestly don't know what that's about. Rachel Kane writes, first super chat, love this show, thanks. Oh, thank you, Rachel. It's always nice when somebody just wants to write in to say something nice. Thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying the show, and I'm glad you're here, and thank you for supporting the channel. Rachel, I appreciate that. All right, a fan of Peanuts writes, my top 5 favorite comic book films ever. 5, X-Men Days of Future Past. Love that movie. Number 4, Captain America Civil War. Love that movie. Number 3, Endgame. Number 2, Logan. Number 1, The Dark Knight. I mean, yeah, to me, Dark Knight and Logan got to be in the top 3. I also put the first Avengers movie in the top 3 myself, but these are all great movies, man. These are all great. It's great that we can have a pool, that we now live in an era here, Peanuts, that we can have a pool of about 20 films. And you can take any combination of those 20 and make a really solid top 5 out of them. It almost doesn't matter which of those 20 you pick. There'll be solid picks. I don't know if Days of Future Past is in my top 5, but you could put it in a top 5 and I'll go right on. I don't know that Endgame would be in my top 5, but you can put it in a top 5 and I'll go right on. I don't like it. That's just the thing. We now live in an age where we have so many great comic book movies that I honestly think there's a pool of like 20 of them now that you could pull any 5 out, slap it in and call it a top 5. And it may not look like my top 5, but I think we can all look at it and go right on, because those are all great movies. It's great that we live in that kind of an era. Thanks for sharing your list, Peanuts. All right. Nick writes, not seen Lucifer yet. What would you compare it to? Honestly, nothing. I honestly don't know what to compare it to. It's so unique. I mean, it's a kind of a regular serial show where there's a mystery of the week, yet an ongoing narrative with the underlying story of Lucifer and his mysteries. It's funny. It's irreverent. To me, dialogue, great, witty, crisp, sharp dialogue always gets me in a show. That's why I love the Spartacus TV show so much. It's the dialogue. Just killed me. The dialogue, again, it's hard to know. I just say, watch season 1, see if it's for you. Watch season 1, see if it's for you. All right, Chris Parker sends in a really big super chat. Thank you, Chris. That's a really generous way to support the channel. Thank you so much, Chris. All right, Chris writes, my partner hasn't seen Star Wars, so I've been showing her them in episodic order. We reached episode 4, and it happened to be playing at Arena in City with orchestra. And while she loved the experience, her main takeaway was, why is Luke such a whiny little bitch? Hey, listen, it's true. That's part of his character development. He was this whiny little farm kid. I mean, and that's not an insult to the movie. That's where his journey began. That the Force was in this kid, and it can be in even the most unassuming of places. That's where the Force can be. It happened that he was the offspring of Anakin Skywalker. But I wanted to go to Tashi Station for some power converters. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Like some people, they think that's talking, if you point that out, that's talking bad about Star Wars. No, it's not. That's part of the greatness of the story. That was the starting point on Luke, and I totally get it. But man, I got to say, Chris, to watch Star Wars for the first time with a live orchestra, that'd be amazing. Just last year, me and her sister Olive and my brother-in-law Stan, we went to the Hollywood Bowl to watch both Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back in concert. So what they did was they had the movie playing on a giant screen at the Hollywood Bowl, and they took out the soundtrack and had the live orchestra playing the music along with the movie. Oh, it was amazing. God, for that to have been my first experience watching Star Wars, that would be something. That is a pretty cool first experience you gave her, Chris, regardless of what she thought about Luke being a whiny, and he was. regardless of that, that is a great experience to give her, dude. I salute you. Tip of the hat to you, sir. That's a good one. Okay. We move on now to Victor Watson. And Victor Watson writes, I watched Endgame twice. Loved it, but Alita Battle Angel is still my favorite of 2019 so far. I really enjoyed Alita Battle Angel. I have issues with it, like I have issues with Endgame. I still think I prefer Endgame, but yeah, Alita was very enjoyable. I thought it deserved to make more money than it made. And I'll tell you what, I'm very much, they've had some glaring problems. But I think those are problems that can be fixed in a sequel if they do a sequel. By the way, I haven't heard that Disney's going to greenlight a sequel yet or not. When I was at CinemaCon and they talked about Fox properties that are going to continue on with their franchise, they mentioned a number of them. They mentioned Aliens. They mentioned Deadpool. They mentioned a couple of things, but they did not mention Alita Battle Angel. So I don't know if we're going to get another one or not, but I'm looking forward to it coming out on home video so I can watch it some more. Valhalla Erickson writes, ever had a movie you used to like, but don't because it hasn't aged well? For me, it's the first two Bryan Singer X-Men films. Oh, I think the first two Bryan Singer X-Men films are still fucking brilliant. Just absolutely brilliant, especially X-Men 2. I still think X-Men 2 is one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. I don't think visual effects hold up. That's fine. But I think those movies are great. And by the way, there is no Avengers if it wasn't for X-Men and X-Men 2. Now, I've told the story a lot of times that there are a lot of the high profile, including the Dark Knight producers and all that kind of stuff, have told the story that when X-Men, the first X-Men movie came out, it's the movie that started this new age of comic book films. Because that was the movie that producers and studios will tell you was the movie that made them go, oh, we can make those kinds of comic book movies and they'll make money and people will love them and critics will like it. We can put mature material, mature themes, not adult, but like a mature stuff in it. And we can make those kinds of movies. It was that movie that made producers and studios go, okay, this is different. We can make these kinds of movies now. And those are the two movies. As far as that, no, I really can't think of any. Any that I liked for a long period of time and then now years later don't. Not off the top of my head. I can't think of any personally off the top of my head, man. All right. Gene Check writes, watching a crowded I don't know what it is. What? A crowded theater dead. So I'm sorry, dude. Nick writes, thoughts on Lord of the Rings show. Shocked Ian McKellen is in. I have not heard that Ian McKellen is in it. Hold a second. Ian McKellen, Amazon, Lord of the Rings. I've not heard this. Has that been a piece of news that came out? Like I heard there was talks of him. I think like in 2017, there was talks that he was going to be in it, but I don't know if that's actually been made official or not. I don't know that that's actually been made official. Now, I am very much looking forward to it. We've been talking about that, and they are putting like $1 billion into this show. They're putting a lot of money into this show. I'm very excited for it. I can't wait to see it. Gene writes, I love Lamp. One of the great comedies of all time, Anchorman, the original one, and that's Brick. I love Lamp. I love that character. Steve Carell at his best. Haskell 420 writes, hey John, Star Wars SC-38 is a fan film of Episode 4's Obi-Wan. Oh, it's okay. I know the fight. I didn't know it was called SC-38. I had no idea. This SC-38 is a fan film of Episode 4. It's Obi-Wan versus Leia fight. Gotta admit, it's pretty badass. I thought it was great good. Some of the effects are very bad. But overall, I thought it was great. If you haven't seen it, look up Obi-Wan versus Vader fight reimagined, and you should be able to find it on YouTube. It's really interesting whether they mix new footage in with traditional footage from the movie, Again, not everything in it works, but overall, I thought it was very cool. Thanks for letting me know that, Haskell. I had no idea it was called SC-38. I had no idea. Thanks you for letting me know. All right, Victor Watson writes, seen Chernobyl, new HBO series, very impressive first episode. Nope, still haven't seen it. I thought the marketing looks fantastic. I am excited to see it. I've had a number of people writing in saying that they've really liked the first episode. I'm going to get on that probably in the next couple of days. Haskell420 writes, John, I just sent SC32 on Twitter. I've already seen it, so I know what it is. Joser Myers writes, will Avengers headquarters rebuild? I'm going to guess yes. I mean, we don't know for sure, but I'm going to take a wild guess and guess yes. All right, and our final question today, we've gone over 2 hours here, comes to us from David Bilior, who writes, saw Matrix 1 and 2 for the first time. Ooh, wow. I don't mean a lot of people haven't seen The Matrix yet. That's interesting. You can probably I'm going to let you know, David, you can probably take a pass on Matrix 3. I know there are a lot of people who don't like Matrix 2 either. I actually enjoy the second Matrix. I liked Matrix 2. But you can probably take a pass on Matrix 3. All right, and Lone Wolf just sent one in the last second here. I'll do this one. Lone Wolf writes, you think Merlin will come back for the end of Arrow? Probably. That's my guess. My guess is we'll probably have a number of characters make one final appearance in the final season. So we just saw Tommy again on the show. I believe we'll probably have Tommy in the final season somewhere. Thea will probably come back for one episode or something, maybe. We'll see. But yes, I am expecting that at least in one episode, we'll probably get a look at Merlin. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of Open Mic, and it wraps up our open mics here for the weekend. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Thank you for sending in all the questions. Number one, because it gives us great fun stuff to talk about. Number two, because doing so supports the channel, and I really appreciate that you guys do that. All right, guys, don't forget, later tonight, we are going to have our Game of Thrones post show talking about the second last episode ever of Game of Thrones. So come back later tonight and join us for that. And also, don't forget, tomorrow, the John Campea Show returns in the morning. Me, Robert Meyer Burnett, Ashley Whalen, all here. Make sure you guys come on back as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, and all that good stuff. All right, guys, thank you again for being here. My name is John Campea, and until our next show, bye-bye.